Hello, this is the pitch of The Rift Between by Alexander Vukcevich. Contents, synopsis of production, themes and areas of focus, examples of similar products, character profiles, target audience, primary and secondary, initial primary research, initial secondary research, visual research, potential locations, and audience feedback. And finally, what skills do I need to develop or extend? My idea was to create up to a 10-minute fantasy adventure movie, analyzing various fantasy and adventure genres to come up with an interesting script. A brief synopsis of my idea is two young adults living in the countryside of a vast fantasy land meet by fate, both from small secluded magical forests opposite one another, a large mystical barrier separating them with no way of possibly contacting the other between them and no knowledge of the other's existence. Until one day, nearby they hear a sound luring them to a magical barrier, where they see ... I will be featuring the genres adventure and fantasy. The mode of address, I have chosen to produce a short film utilizing indirect address, creating realism with characters talking to each other. The tone I've chosen to use is informal, creating an immersive world between the characters, further enhanced with techniques such as a voiceover. The planned length of my short film is approximately 10 minutes long. My purpose, why am I doing this? I wanted to challenge myself and select a different idea and genre to what I've done previously, of being the genres of adventure and fantasy, out of my comfort zone. Key themes, adventure and fantasy. The fantasy genre holds many common themes and is popular because it's based on escaping from reality into the imagination. All fantasy films of a high quality present original theme, plots, and ideas. The themes that I will be featuring to provide uniqueness and originality are predestined fate, referring to the instant bringing both of my characters together, a force able to ignore the force separating them. Exploration, our main character's exploration of an unknown world. The adventure genre also focuses on escapism because it provides the audience with thrilling storylines that use different locations and create friendship, the birth of an unplanned friendship between the characters. The key focus for me is to create an engaging and exciting script and movie, teaming with originality using the themes I mentioned above. My similar products are Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, and Princess Mononoke. The similarities between my project and Lord of the Rings, The Lord of the Rings shares similarities to my project through aspects such as the narrative, genres, and audience, sharing the genres adventure and fantasy with narrative themes such as friendship and loyalty and the hero's journey, and my use of forests to give the peaceful, wondrous feeling of nature. The target audience being the general population age 18 to 55, interested in surprising, thrilling plots. Game of Thrones relates to my project through narrative and by my use of magical themes, for example, force separating my two characters and the power that led to their meeting. Another similarity is the genres of both adventure and fantasy residing in a fantasy land consisting of journeys that emotionally change the characters, the target audiences being general population age 18 to 55 who love complex fantasy plots. Princess Mononoke also relates to my production in narrative through use of locations, for example, a magical forest relating to a higher power, with the genres adventure and fantasy both two being shared, follow us characters' adventure and journey home, held by the strength of a magical being. The target audiences for both, including teens and young adults with love for nature and the phantasmal. What is a character profile? I'll consider various attributes of my characters to bring my movie idea to life. Characters have to have a story behind them, their traits and their personality. In longer production, characters can also change. They can start as a negative and turn into a heroine or vice versa. This is known as a character arc. It's also important to concise how the character behaves and looks, as this adds to my storyline. Focus can also be on character psychological traits, their upbringing and relationship with others. These are my character profiles. My initial target audience overview. My primary target audience is Gen Z and millennials of all genders residing in the UK. Secondary target audience is Gen X, both male and female, in the whole continent of Europe. I will deep dive into demographic and psychographic segmentation below. Demographic profiles: education, amount of income, family, age, ethnicity, gender. An example of a demographic profile. This graph shows the total number of Gen Z and millennials in London, and there's also another graph displaying the research on the education and marriage life or use of transport for these generations. Psychographic profile: personality, attitude, activities, interests, opinions, social status, lifestyle. Example of a psychographic profile: Gen Z and millennials are interested in a good work-life balance. They like to adventure and explore. They are ambitious and aim to earn high salaries, but believe in a hybrid and flexible workflow. They value interesting jobs. Some of them are also digital nomads. Up to 30% of Gen Z still lives at home with their parents. Example of a psychographic profile: Gen Zs are deep thinkers. Gen Zs believe in racial justice and love debating. Gen Zs care about critical perspectives, e.g. racial justice. Gen Zs value sustainability as a generation. Millennials have a value-driven approach to life. Millennials care about the environment. Millennials place high value on material possessions. Millennials are known to be innovative. Gen X strive for stability in their surroundings. Gen X strive for social stability. Gen X place high importance on family life, and Gen X find themselves responsible for their parents. Surveys conducted for my idea. I conducted a Google survey to gauge people's opinion about my idea and collect demographic data of people fond of my idea. The first two questions of the survey are: the first question I asked was, are you interested in my story? The responses I received indicated that 19 out of 20, 95% of people are interested in my idea based on a short synopsis I provided. This gave me further confidence in producing my production. The second question, what generation are you from, tells me that there's an equal split between the age of my target audience being Generation X, Millennials, and Generation Z. The third and fourth question on my survey gave me further information on the demographic profile of my target audience. The question, what is your gender, led to a 50-50 result between male and female, further supporting my predicted target audience being aimed towards both genders. For the final question, where are you from, reinforced my predictions of my potential audience mainly residing in the UK, in particular London, with the secondary mainly residing in Europe. Moving forward, I'll be conducting further primary research for my project through more surveys to collect feedback for my rough edit from my audience and peers to produce a final edited version of my film. Initial secondary research. The initial secondary research I've conducted has been into the fantasy and adventure genres that I used to draft up my 3 initial ideas, discovering the common themes of the genres such as good versus evil, a hero's journey, and magic and the supernatural, seen for example in books and films such as Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Harry Potter, Star Wars. Intended secondary research. I intend to conduct secondary research for my contextual research, stating the history, subgenres, codes and conventions of the fantasy and adventure genres, along with linear and non-linear narrative structures and character arcs using the sources that I've listed below. Books. Fantasy. A short story by Adam Roberts, Grimm's Fairy Tales by the Grimm brothers, and articles from The Guardian, and using film archives such as IMDb. This is one of my mood boards. This mood board displays my interest in the use of nature in relation to fantasy, along with medieval aesthetic. Visual research color palette. A simple description of color palettes are that they're a group of colors that go together to make a visually pleasing combination to attract attention from the audience. Using the color wheel, we can create complementary combinations by selecting opposite colors on the wheel. Here are some examples of color palettes. Visual research. Director's work. Hayao Miyazaki. Here's some of his art put in his movies. And also Peter Jackson's and his work in the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit trilogies. Similar productions focusing on plot themes. My idea has a very unique premise, mainly revolving around a magical force or barrier separating my two characters, and follows the main character being dragged into a war and his journey to get back home, aided by a friend he makes on the way. In conclusion, I found similar products focusing on characters trapped by a mysterious wall. These are Under the Dome, The Wall, and The Cabin in the Woods. What skills do I need to develop or extend moving forward? The skills that I need to develop or extend during my FMP are lighting. I plan to use warm lighting, utilizing nature to create a peaceful, almost soothing atmosphere. Editing style. In this production, I will need to increase my use of special effects to create certain magic effects. SFX, I'll be using sound effects to amplify visual elements during editing, for example, the effects for the wall. Potential locations. Trent Park. I believe that Trent Park is a good potential location for its vast and dense woodland, perfect for filming the scenes and shots I intend. Personnel. Director Alexander Viktorovich. Cast. Tyrone Watson and Theo Harris Kotos. Feedback. I'll be collecting audience feedback for my FMP using tools and sources such as survey responses with Google Forms, viewer analytics, and comments from my YouTube channel. To improve my rough edit into my final, my tutors and peers so I can gain a more professional opinion along with my peers' honesty. That would be all. Thank you for listening to this presentation.